Good morning, everybody. It's Dawn back at the sewing machine here in Noblesville, Indiana at Always in Stitches. And today we're going to talk about, I call them connecting corners. My girlfriend calls them flipped corners. You can call them whatever you like, but it is a technique that we use that just kind of changes up a square a little bit. Some people call these a snowball block. Can you get a picture of it? Oh, Peter's back.
Hi, everybody.
Peter's back. We're so happy. Say hi to Peter in the comments, okay?
First, I'd like to take a moment, though, to thank those people who wished me well in the comments. And then I want to thank Diane because I got one of her beautiful, amazing cards.
Really?
Uh-huh.
You should have brought it in so everybody can see it. Maybe next week, okay?
Next week I'll bring it in.
Okay, that
it's
would
a
be
horse.
awesome. Oh, no.
Yes.
Perfect for you.
Yes.
Since you fell off one.
Yeah, it's the best card, one of the best cards I've ever gotten.
Awesome. So it'll go in a scrapbook or something,
It will.
Okay, that's
Saving
great.
that one
Thanks,
forever.
Diana. That was nice of you. So anyway, today this started out as a 4.5-inch square. And then I added squares onto the corners. And I sewed them on the diagonal, and then I flipped them back. And that gave me this, what I call connecting corners. And I created, if I put them on all four corners, that creates this snowball effect. You see that? So I'm going to just kind of go over a few things that I do to prepare to do connecting corners. First of all, this is my faceplate that goes on my machine. And here's where my needle goes in. And you can see there's a big slot there. And that's excellent if I'm going to do some kind of decorative stitch or some kind of zigzag stitch where I need all that space. But I am going to start by sewing on a corner. And I don't want that fabric to go down in between that slot. So there's two things I can do. First of all, I can use one of my beginners and enders. You know, we've talked about beginners and enders. It's a little piece of fabric, and usually I just save the leftovers from my bindings, you know, and I cut them into about 3-inch strips, and then I use those as my beginners and enders. I can do that, or I purchased myself a single hole plate. Now, Peter, if you can get in here and look, see where there's just one little single hole, where in this one it's a slot. This one just has one single hole. So that's going to be good because it's not going to allow that fabric to go down in. Another thing I did was, see my 1/4-inch foot has a guide on it. And the fabric rides along that guide. Well, I'm going to not be sewing on the edge of the fabric. I'm going to be sewing through the middle of the fabric. So I have, it comes with this little screw. I've just removed that. I also want a foot that has a see-through. I want to be able to see through to my needle. Okay, so since this is clear, that's good. Or if I had one that was open here, that would be great. I don't even really need a 1/4-inch foot because I'm not doing anything with the 1/4-inch. So if I had an open-toed foot, but I like this one. It's clear and I can see through it just fine. But if I had an open-toed foot, I could put that on too. Open-toed. Sounds like a pair of high heels, doesn't it? Okay. I'm just going to snap that back on. So that's a couple things that I do to prepare. Another thing I do is I either slow my machine down so that I can have better control, or I also sometimes will lower my stitch length. And that way I have more control over getting that straight line. I'm not going to sit and draw. If I had to make 6,000 of these, well, maybe even if I had to make 50 of these, I'm not going to sit and spend my time drawing lines on the diagonal on all these, even though a lot of patterns suggest that you do that, because I have this. And this is just a little handmade, homemade thing that I came up with. But you can buy tools that do this, and I showed one a couple weeks ago, and it was a pretty flower shape. And I do take that when I go on retreats and stuff, because I usually don't have my machine in a cabinet when I go to retreats. I'm usually on one of them 8-foot tables, and I have to use my little table here accessory that came with my machine. And so I will travel with that little gizmo I showed you. But if I'm at my permanent sewing machine, I'll use my guide. And what I've done here is I've taken my ruler and I have marked myself a line that shows me where my needle is all the way to the end. So I know right where my needle is. So when I go to sew on the diagonal here, I'm going to take this 2-inch square and I'm going to add it to the corner. I'm going to connect a corner to my square. That's why I call them connecting corners. But my friend calls them flipped corners because we're going to flip it back. But anyway, I'm going to put it there. I'm going to make sure the corner is right at my needle. And then see this corner here? I'm going to put it right at my needle line. So I know from there to there is a straight line and no need to draw the line. And because I'm going slower, I have more accuracy because I can keep better control. Okay, look at this, how fun. And then I can just chain piece however many I need. No pinning. No zooming with the, zoom, 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 no going fast. Just taking my time, enjoying the process. And it's important that these be accurate because when I start putting them together, see over here, Peter, when I start putting them together, they have to match up. If I wasn't accurate with my piecing, those wouldn't line up, and that's got to be important. Unless, you don't want them to line up in your design. That's always a fun thing, to change the design. Connecting corners. I'm going to do this one more. Now you can see that the connecting corners on this block and the connecting corners on this block are a different size. See that? These are 1.5, these are 2-inch. Could I use them together in a design? Well, I sure could. It'd make a fun design. Okay? I'm going to show you here in a minute.
In terms of workflow, I'm going to, based upon how you're doing it for this video, are you putting one corner on all your squares and then going and doing the second and then going and doing the third and fourth?
Yes. What I usually do is, let's say I have to do 50 of these.
Okay.
So I'd have 50 squares and I'd have 50 times 4 is 200. So I'd have 200 little squares, okay? So I would sew all the ones on this corner, zoom, 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 50 times. Then I'd clip, 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 and then I'd switch around and I'd do the opposite corners. Zoom, 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 okay? And then I'd do the other 2 opposite corners. And so I'd do all 4 before I went over to my ironing surface, because that's just more efficient.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was a good question, Peter. See, Peter has the good questions.
Not all the time.
So I'm going to have my little machine here that I love so much that I made myself. So see how I would just do those apart? Okay, now, I don't have to get my ruler just simply because it doesn't really matter whether this is a complete real 1/4 inch, because I'm not going to be doing anything that I need that to be a true 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit here and relax at my sew machine, and I'm just going to, I can kind of guess. at a 1/4 inch.
Because I know you have a scissor collection and a pincushion collection.
Yes.
Would you be using, I'm just curious, would you be using one of your scissors if you're at home from your collection? Do you like to use different scissors? Or
No.
are they more decorative?
They're more decorative. Like, look at these. I wouldn't use these for anything. I mean, I could clean them up and I could probably still use them. But I just like that grungy look. I
That's
still
fun.
like that grungy
That's
look.
fun.
Isn't that fun? And look at those. Those are usable. Totally usable. I could use those in a pinch. But no, I have my fabric cutting scissors. These scissors are old and have been through the mill and are not probably appropriate for cutting fabric. They probably would chew the fabric instead of cut the fabric. I have fabric cutting scissors. Don't touch them, is what I say at home. My dad, he's a kleptomaniac. He steals everything. The other day, you know those things that go, they're kind of silicone and they open up and you put them around your thread to keep your thread from unraveling?
Yes, yes.
He was wearing one as a ring the other day. And I said, Dad, where did you get that? Oh, from the trash. I said, no, you didn't. You got that out of my sewing stuff. So anyway, now I'm ready to come over and press these. And now this is so important. Now some people, they say press to one side. Well, when you do that, look what happens. You're pressing and you've got a little fold there. Now that is taking up maybe 1 or 2 strands of fabric and is not accurate. If you pressed that open, you would not have that little fold over fabric. So you know what I'm going to do, don't you? I'm going to use my clapper and I'm going to press those open and you will see that gives, see, it's just, there's nothing to fold over.
It's perfectly flat.
Yeah, it's perfectly flat. So
Yeah, you don't get that little raised.
you don't get that hump.
You don't get that curb.
Right, that little curb. Yeah. I hope we get the clappers in someday.
Maybe before the year's up, hopefully.
You know what, Peter, you and I need to retire from this piecing business
And make
and start
clappers.
making clappers.
Have our own clapper business.
Have our clapper business. Okay. Alrighty, now what's the next thing? We're going to come around here and we're going to size these up. Now I started out with a 4.5-inch square. These should be 4.5-inch square because all I really did was replace the corners. I didn't add anything. I just replaced. Okay? So I'm going to lay this down. And I shouldn't have to cut very much off because if I sewed it accurately, I should just be, yeah, see, look, just some little nubbins. Is squaring up important? Well, it's important to me because I like my blocks to go together.
After I've watched, after I've filmed all these videos, squaring up is hugely important to me.
Has it improved your piecing?
It has made all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And I enjoy piecing so much more because I know
It'll go together.
Yes, it'll go together.
Now tell the folks at home how you did at the state fair.
Oh, yes. So I had, I have to remember now, I had 3 first places.
Woohoo!
I had 3 third places. I'm going off memory, so I might have been 1 less or 1 more.
Okay.
2 reserves.
Wow. Now that is awesome.
So I did very good.
You certainly did. Now, did you get to go or had you already broken your arm?
Well, I had broken my arm, and I was quite depressed. So I got to a point where I felt like I could get there
Yeah.
and check out the display for a few minutes. And I did. I got really exhausted though.
Yeah.
And so then I just went home.
Yeah.
But I did get to see the stuff.
You did
there.
get to see it. Good. Now, see, I'm just getting little hairs off. But you know what? Those hairs make a big difference. You think they don't, but they do. And you
50 blocks across.
Right, exactly.
That's 100 seams.
That would be 50 threads. So, see there. That's not a lot, but it makes a big difference. So now, let's come over to my board, my design board. Oh, Chloe ate one of my design boards this weekend. It looked delicious, I guess. But anyway.
She claimed it.
Yeah, I came home and it was half eaten. She just ate the cardboard stuff. She didn't really like the Pellon. Okay, now let's start playing around with this. So, I got opposites. See?
I noticed.
Did you notice that?
I noticed.
So I've got this. And then, this is what I wanted to show you. It makes a secondary little design in the middle.
Oh, very cool.
Now look at that. Isn't that cute? It makes this little like hourglass block. I love that. So what could I really do with this? Well, this would make a cute quilt all in its own.
It would make an awesome quilt.
I could embroider on the light ones. Wouldn't that be cute? I could embroider a little baby design or something.
That would look
or
awesome.
Flowers or a little basket. I could do whatever. Now, applique. You could do, I mean, it's endless, really.
Punch needle.
Endless. Punch needle. Anything. Now, let's replace these with these and see what happens to that little hourglass. Oh, I don't have opposites. Well, you get the idea. See how it makes this little hourglass look more like a spool of thread. Do you see that? Look at that. Isn't that cute? So you could have a quilt of just all that. I think that would be adorable. Do you have to use the same colors on all four corners? No. You could make it really scrappy. You could do all kinds of things with this. Do you always use connecting corners with a square? No. This is what brings me up to today's lesson because, again, I'm making another quilt for the shop, and it's going to be using this beautiful fabric from Moda and Corey Yoder, and it's called Beautiful Day. And it's a fabric that we're getting in later on, probably, I don't know, next year. You know, we're not too far from next year. Today is August 30th.
Oh, we're not.
Another month has gone by.
Yeah, we get spring fabric in a couple months.
Yeah, so here. You know, typical Corey Yoder with her beautiful reds and corals and her yummy greens. You know, I love the greens the best. Look at this. I have to might buy a whole bolt of that because I just love that.
Oh, that make a great packing.
Now look at this. Look at this for some binding.
I'm waiting. Oh, no. Oh, yes.
Look, with the numbers. Isn't that cute? And then the polka dots. I mean, it's just love all over the place, don't you think?
Oh, it's got that beautiful white on white.
And this is going to be a free pattern that we're going to have for this.
Can I show them?
For this line? Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And so today, the reason I was showing you connecting corners is because, look, in each one, I have to make 8 connecting corners in each of these blocks.
Okay.
So that means I have to make, let's see, does it tell me? Doesn't really tell me, I guess.
That's a fun quilt.
Yeah. So anyway, I could count it up, but you get the idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rectangles. Let me get a couple that have been pressed better. I'm going to take my rectangles. I'm going to take my squares. And I'm going to put half of them this way and half of them this way. Because I need a lefty and a righty. So, I'm going to do this. And what I would do is if I need 200 of them, I'd stack up 200 like that, and I'd stack up 200 like that.
That makes it so much easier.
And then all I have to do is pick them up, and I know they're on the correct corner because I didn't think about it before I put it in my machine. I thought about it way over here. You know, if I picked it up and tried to remember each time, I'd just be a bubbling idiot because I would get half of them mixed up. I just know I would. So here's this. Again, flipped corners, connecting corners, I don't care what you call them. But all you're doing is you're replacing one corner or 4 corners or 2 corners, whatever the design calls for, with another piece of fabric.
I love that quilt uses the charm pack.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't it nice?
So if you have and that's the perfect fabric to show off for the center squares.
Right. So I'm just going to go over here and press these open.
Go this way this time.
Okay. I'm going to make sure they're squared up. It's 2 1/4 by 2 3/4. Just some hairs that have to be trimmed off. You know, I don't have to trim this off because it's already, I didn't even sew on it. So all I'm really doing is trimming the corner that I sewed.
So the seam lines up on that edge?
Yeah. Okay. So now let's go back to the sewing machine. Now this is the tricky part, you see. I sewed a lefty and a righty, right? So now I got to make sure that those line up. So what I'm going to do is when I come to my sewing machine, you know, I've got them right there. They line up pretty darn good because I was accurate with everything else. Of course, I'm going to pin because I'm a pinner. If you're not a pinner, that's okay. That works for you. Pinning works for me. Now's where I need my 1/4 inch guide. Well, I'm not going to put it on because I've got a 1/4 inch here. I don't need a guide. Right there. I can just go without the hang down guide. Raised it up too quick. It didn't get a chance to cut. Now look at that. Isn't that just yummy delicious? So I would make 4 of these.
Perfection.
I'm going to press the seam open. And then this is when I would get out. And I'd make 4 of these. And then I'd make a 1/2 square triangle because there's a 1/2 square triangle that goes on the edge here. And then when I put that on, see how that's going to make that design?
Whoa.
Isn't that going to be so pretty?
Yes.
So I'd make 4 of
That's
those.
very pretty.
So that's connecting corners. What do you think, Peter? Is that something new for you, or did you already know about connecting corners?
I think I had quilted or pieced connecting corners in a quilt pattern, but I wasn't aware of how useful they can be. Oops, hold the camera up so they can see you. How useful it can be. You know, it's like one of those things where you do it by accident. You don't really know what you're doing.
Right, or
like,
it's called for it and you just don't think about what you're doing.
Or it's like a stitch and flip.
Yeah.
But I didn't ever think of how I could reuse that to create something on the fly, something out of scraps, something out of, maybe I have a charm pack and but I don't have enough to do a whole quilt.
You know what?
But now I can do a whole quilt.
Even if you had a charm pack and you wanted to, now this is not a good color, But even if you just had a charm pack and you wanted to make snowball blocks out of every one of the charm pack pieces, that would just add interest, because then when you sewed it together, you'd have that extra little design that would go through. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
And then all you needed was a charm pack and some scrap, maybe background fabric.
And it looks like, I'm going to say, modern quilters could use the connecting corners to randomly put corners on squares and then piece them together
Yeah.
in a random way to get a very unique pattern.
Right, exactly. What if you had a 9-patch and you put connecting
Ooh,
corners on it? Wouldn't that be interesting?
that would be very
I don't know
cool.
where my little 3-rail fence pieces went. They've been using my sewing room for other things this week. But anyway, yeah, you could do a rail fence and do connecting corners. Are they over here?
Is it on the corner by the chili bowl?
No,
Oh.
it's not. But anyway, you could do that. I mean, adding corners and turning your squares into, I don't know what it's called when it's just 4 corners. I know it's a hexagon when it's 6 corners maybe. But anyway, it just adds a personality to your blocks. And if you just have scraps laying around and you have a charm pack and you don't want to just sew the charm pack together square on square on square, you want to add a little bit more interest, well, how much easier? I mean, it couldn't be any easier to take a bunch of squares the same size, and does it matter what size they are? No. No. Do they have to be the same size? They don't even have to be the same size. You can get all different designs by making them not the same size. So that's a fun little lesson that we've learned today, how to do connecting corners. I hope that it kind of brought some new ideas into your sewing room. And next week, I'm going to talk about ruler organization. Now that is going to be exciting because I had a girlfriend show me how she organized her rulers. Are your rulers organized, Peter?
They are. They're all laying randomly across the cutting table.
Randomly across the cutting table. But I'm talking about like those specialty rulers. Like last time I showed him how to use a Tri-Rex ruler. Did you watch that video? Peter! Peter didn't even watch our videos while he was gone. People!
I didn't know somebody was recording them.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, go back and watch that video because I showed how to use a Tri-Rex ruler. Then I showed how to use the mini strip ruler. What do you do with all those rulers? And they come with instructions. What do you do with all those instructions? And how do you keep them with your rulers? I'm going to show you that next week, okay? And next week is going to be September. Already September.
Okay,
that's my birthday month.
Let me think about this.
Okay.
Let me think about this because Monday, I believe, is Labor Day.
Next Monday's Labor Day?
I believe so.
We won't be here, will we?
No.
We're not going to be here on Labor Day. So
give us 2 weeks.
The following Monday.
2 weeks.
And maybe Peter will have his rulers organized a little bit better. Once he sees this method that I'm going to show you, he'll do it. I know he will. Just like he put his sewing machine on a surge protector. That's just how good he is. So anyway, we'll see you on Monday following Labor Day. Unless next Monday. Are you sure next Monday's Labor Day?
I'm pretty sure.
You're pretty sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I thought today was Labor Day.
Uh-huh.
And
So you
on
didn't show up for
Saturday,
work?
well, on Saturday, I told one of the girls, I said, "Oh, I hope you have a good Labor Day." And they go, "What? It's not Labor Day." I looked at the calendar. I was like, "Oh, it's the following week." Oh my gosh, I would have missed work.
Well, we're glad you're here.
I know,
So
I know.
Everybody say that how much they appreciate Peter in the comments, and we'll see you on another Monday. Okay? Have a good week. Bye-bye.
I can't hit the stop button.
Oh, no, because of your broken arm.
Yeah. Hit that red button.